Hello, sleepyheads, and welcome back to Yawn Learn, the channel where your curiosity gets cozy and history tucks you in. I'm Simone, your bedtime historian, here to share a story that might make you chuckle, cringe, and thank the universe you weren't born in the 14th century. So tonight, fluff up your pillow, dim the lights, and let's time travel to an age where medicine was, well, let's say, creatively improvised. Imagine you wake up in medieval Europe with a headache. Instead of aspirin, you might get a priest to sprinkle holy water on your head, or a barber might decide to drill a small hole in your skull, for balance, of course. Got lovesickness? Try powdered pigeon heart. Or maybe carry a live toad in your pocket, the ultimate medieval fashion accessory. From bring your own leech events, yes, that was a thing, to herbal brews that would make a modern pharmacist faint, medieval medicine had range. Tonight, we'll explore why people trusted these bizarre treatments, what they actually did, and which of them, shockingly, kind of worked. So, pull your blanket up to your chin and get ready for a candlelit journey through fevers, leeches, demons, and questionable soup recipes. This is Strange Cures in Medieval Times. Let's begin. Why medieval medicine was so weird. Imagine you wake up one chilly morning in the year 1372. You've got a pounding headache, a fever, and you feel like a blacksmith is hammering inside your skull. You call for a doctor, but instead of checking your pulse or handing you an aspirin, this man in a long robe leans over and says, yes, clearly, your humors are out of balance. We'll need to drain a little blood and perhaps apply some crushed beetles to your temple. That was medicine. And believe it or not, in the Middle Ages, that was considered cutting edge. The worldview that shaped it all. To understand why medieval medicine was so strange by modern standards, we need to step into their mindset. Back then, there was no germ theory, no understanding of bacteria or viruses. If you got sick, people didn't blame a microscopic invader. They blamed the stars, the weather, the balance of your bodily fluids, or even your spiritual health. The dominant belief came from ancient Greek and Roman medicine, particularly the theory of the four humors. According to this system, your body was filled with four vital fluids: blood, warm and wet; splendor, cold and wet; yellow bile, warm and dry; black bile, cold and dry. If these humors were balanced, you were healthy. If one was too strong, trouble began, and medieval doctors were ready with some truly creative ways to set things right. Why this made perfect sense to them. We might laugh now, but you have to remember this was logical in the absence of modern science. The human body does change with illness. Fevers make you hot and sweaty, colds make your nose run, stomach trouble makes you vomit. Without microscopes, they connected symptoms to fluids and temperatures they could actually see and feel. Plus, medicine back then wasn't just about the body. It was tied to religion, astrology, and nature. A physician might time your treatment based on the position of the moon or your zodiac sign. Oh, you're a Virgo? We can't treat your cough until Mercury is out of retrograde. A recipe for weirdness. This mix of ancient theory, superstition, and trial and error created a medical world that was part science, part ritual, and part, well, chaos. From bring your own leech events to potions that would make a modern pharmacist faint, medieval medicine had range. Some remedies did work. Many herbs they used are still in medicine today, but others were so bizarre you'd think they were invented on a dare. And the best part? People didn't just endure these treatments. They paid good money for them. The greatest hits of strange medieval cures. If there was one thing medieval doctors never lacked, it was creativity. When it came to treatments, Their motto might as well have been, if it grows, bleeds, crawls, or smells terrible, it's medicine. So, let's open the dusty apothecary cabinet and look at some of the most memorable cures the Middle Ages had to offer. 1. Bring your own leech. Ah, yes, the leech, the poster child of medieval medicine. If you had a fever, inflammation, a headache, gout, nosebleeds, or even general bad vibes, there was a good chance your doctor would reach for a jar of squirming black worms. The theory was simple. You have too much blood. Leeches like blood. Problem solved. Leeches weren't just slapped on randomly either. Physicians had elaborate charts mapping out exactly where to place them depending on the illness. One common spot for headaches? Right on your temple. That's right. You'd be lying there with a little bloodsucker gently gnawing at your face for your health. 2. The chicken butt cure. Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. And no, I'm not making this up. For certain illnesses, especially bubonic plague swellings, one remedy involved plucking the feathers from a live chicken's rear end and pressing its bare, warm bottom directly onto the infected area. The belief? The chicken would draw out the disease through, well, chicken magic, I guess. Once the bird absorbed too much sickness, you'd swap it for a fresh one. Imagine the scene. You're lying in bed, feeling awful, and your doctor walks in carrying a very annoyed chicken. 3. Crushed gems. For that luxury healing experience. Feeling sick and rich? Then why not eat your jewelry? Some medieval medical texts recommended grinding precious stones into powder and mixing them into drinks. Emeralds were said to fight poison, sapphires calmed the mind, and rubies boosted vitality. Unfortunately, they did nothing except ruin perfectly good gems, and probably your teeth. But hey, you looked fabulous while dying. 4. Urine, the Swiss Army knife of remedies. In medieval times, pee was basically the duct tape of medicine. It was everywhere. Doctors used it to diagnose illness by looking at its color, smell, and even taste. Yes, taste. It was also used in wound cleaning, skin treatments, and as an ingredient in certain potions. One English recipe for eye brightness called for mixing human urine with honey and dabbing it on the eyelids. Congratulations, you now have sticky, slightly alarming eyes. 5. The hang over the dead method. If you had epilepsy, one medieval cure involved lying face down over the body of a recently executed criminal. The belief was that the life force of the deceased would transfer into you, curing your condition. This raises so many questions. Who thought of this first? How many people volunteered? And was the executioner just on standby for medical purposes? These are just a few of the crowd favorites, and believe me, this was only the starter pack of medieval cures. Some got even stranger, crossing into the territory of spells, charms, and remedies that sound like deleted scenes from a Monty Python movie. Potions, charms, and the magical side of medicine. If you think medieval cures were strange so far, well, buckle up. We're about to leave the doctor's office and head straight into the wizard's workshop, a place where medicine and magic blurred into one giant cauldron-bubbling experiment. 1. The witch's soup cure. Herbal remedies were common, but sometimes they got creative. A typical medieval potion might include the handful of rosemary, a pinch of sage, a dash of cinnamon, and half a boiled toad. Why the toad? Because someone, somewhere, decided that toad juice could draw out fevers. And once that idea took hold, no one questioned it for a few hundred years. You can imagine the conversation. Doctor, is this soup for drinking or for hexing my neighbor? Yes. 2. Charm against nightmares. In the Middle Ages, nightmares weren't just bad dreams. They were often believed to be caused by demons or evil spirits sitting on your chest while you slept. One popular remedy was to carve a special charm with a protective prayer, then hang it above your bed. Another, sleep with a knife under your pillow. Now, I'm no expert, but adding sharp weapons to your sleeping routine seems like trading one problem for several new ones. 3. Hair of the dog. Literally. If you were bitten by a rabid dog, one medieval cure was to take hair from that exact dog, burn it, grind it into powder, and apply it to the wound. The belief was that a small dose of the offender's essence could counteract the bite. It's basically homeopathy with a side of fleas. 4. Amulets for all occasions. Amulets were the medieval version of wellness jewelry, worn to protect against disease, curses, or general bad luck. Some were simple pouches filled with herbs. Others got personal. One surviving text suggests that carrying the dried hand of a hanged man could protect against fevers. Yes, people were literally walking around with mummified hands in their pockets. Somehow I think the fever wasn't the main health risk here. 5. The holy water rinse. Not all cures came from superstition. Some were deeply tied to religion. Holy water was used for blessing, cleansing, and yes, drinking, in hopes of curing illnesses. It was also sometimes mixed with herbs or wine for extra strength. And if that didn't work, well, clearly you just needed more holy water. The thing is, in the Middle Ages, magic and medicine weren't separate. They were both part of the same worldview, one where disease could be caused by bad air, bad spirits, or bad behavior. So why not cover all your bases? The weirdest cures of them all. If you thought carrying a knife under your pillow to stop the plague was strange, buckle up. This is where medieval medicine goes full hold my mead. I've got an idea. 1. Mouse paste for toothaches. Picture this. You've got a terrible toothache in 14th century England. The local healer nods wisely and then mashes up a dead mouse into a paste. You're told to rub it on the sore tooth. Yes, an actual mouse. Why? The logic was something like, mouse is small and harmless, maybe it will draw out the bad stuff. Which, no, it just draws out your will to live. 2. Drink this. It's definitely safe. Potions. Some remedies read like a dare from a medieval frat party. For example, a tonic made of wine, sage, rosemary, and a little powdered gold. Sounds fancy, except gold isn't exactly digestible and in large amounts can be toxic. But hey, at least your insides would be sparkly. 3. Magical words as medicine. Some cures didn't even involve ingredients, just words. You'd have a healer whisper Latin phrases over your body to banish illness. Sometimes the words weren't even real Latin, just gibberish with a mystical tone. It was basically medieval ASMR, minus the gentle tapping sounds. 4. The hang this around your neck cure. Medieval Europe loved amulets. For headaches, you might wear a charm made from bits of baked earth. For fever, you could hang a little bag with powdered emerald around your neck. Of course, wearing gemstones doesn't actually kill bacteria, but you would look fabulous while sick. 5. Animal parts for everything. Want better eyesight? Eat a cooked owl. Need more energy? Boil up some ants in water and drink the broth. There was a cure for epilepsy involving the skull of a freshly killed man, and we're just going to move right past that one. 6. The cure. That's actually just food poisoning. The 15th century plague recipe called for eating bread soaked in vinegar and sprinkled with crushed mercury. Yes, mercury, because nothing says I feel better already like heavy metal toxicity. The amazing thing? People weren't stupid. They just didn't have the knowledge we do now. They were trying to make sense of disease with the tools and beliefs they had. A lot of these strange cures probably worked as placebos, and sometimes that little boost of hope might have been just enough. Why did people believe this stuff? It's easy for us to laugh at medieval medicine, to shake our heads at the toad soups, the mummified hands, and the knife under your pillow sleep routine. But here's the thing. If you lived in the Middle Ages, you wouldn't have thought it was weird at all. You would have done it. I would have done it. Everyone would have done it. Science was still a baby. Today we have germ theory, microscopes, and the knowledge that washing your hands is more than just a neat hobby. Back then, not so much. The dominant medical theory was the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Your health depended on keeping these in balance, which is why treatments often involved bleeding, purging, or giving you things to vomit up. It wasn't random, it was just the best science they had. And if your doctor recommended boiled toad, it was because, in their logic, toad was a cooling ingredient that might balance your overheated humors. Medicine and religion were BFFs. Faith wasn't just part of daily life, it was daily life. Illness could be seen as a spiritual problem as much as a physical one. That's why prayer, holy water, pilgrimages, and relics were common treatments. If a cure didn't work, maybe you hadn't prayed enough. If it did work, well, thank God, literally. Nature was mysterious and scary. No microscopes meant no clear understanding of bacteria, viruses, or parasites. So when you got sick, the cause could be anything. Bad air, the miasma theory, angry spirits, a witch's curse, eating cheese on the wrong day. If that's your worldview, it makes sense to throw every possible solution at the problem, from herbs to charms to chanting at the moon. Word of mouth was the medical journal. There were no randomized controlled trials. If your neighbor swore she cured her rash by rubbing it with an onion under a full moon, that was basically as good as peer-reviewed research. Stories spread, traditions formed, and treatments were passed down for centuries. The placebo effect is powerful. Even today, we know the placebo effect can trigger real changes in the body. If you believe the toad soup will work, you might feel better, even if the toad had nothing to do with it. And in an age when most illnesses had no real cure, sometimes belief was the most powerful medicine available. When you put all of this together, medieval medicine wasn't random chaos. It was a system. Not our system, not a particularly effective system, but a system that for hundreds of years people trusted with their lives. The surprising things they actually got right. Okay, we've had our fun with the toads, the leeches, and the knife under the pillow bedtime hacks, but before we judge medieval medicine too harshly, we have to admit something. They weren't wrong about everything. In fact, a surprising number of their remedies actually worked. Herbal medicine had real science behind it. Medieval healers used plants like willow bark for pain relief, which we now know contains salicin, the chemical ancestor of aspirin. Chamomile tea for sleep? Still recommended today. Garlic for infections? Turns out it has natural antibacterial properties. Sure, not every herb in their toolkit did much, looking at you, powdered unicorn horn, but some were genuinely effective. Honey was a wound-healing MVP. Long before we had antibiotic creams, medieval folk used honey to treat cuts and burns. And science agrees, honey has antimicrobial properties and creates a protective barrier that helps wounds heal. Also, bonus, it tastes better than Neosporin. Isolation to prevent disease spread. During outbreaks, some towns practice quarantine, the idea that you keep the sick away from the healthy. The word quarantine actually comes from the Italian 40 giorni, meaning 40 days. The length of isolation for ships suspected of carrying plague. They didn't fully understand germs, but they knew enough to say, maybe don't stand too close to that guy coughing up blood. Surgery was crude, but could save lives. Yes, medieval surgery often involved wine as an antiseptic, and a strong friend to hold you down, but for certain injuries, like setting broken bones or draining abscesses, it could genuinely help. Some surgeons were highly skilled, even developing tools that wouldn't look too out of place in a modern ER. Cleanliness, when they practiced it, helped. Medieval Europe wasn't exactly famous for its hygiene, but in certain places and periods, regular bathing was encouraged. Bathhouses used warm water, herbs, and even scented oils. When plague hit, some of these habits disappeared, but when they existed, they likely kept people healthier. So while we can joke about bring your own leech nights, it's worth remembering that medieval medicine wasn't just superstition. It was a blend, part wisdom, part myth, part wild experimentation. And every so often, they got it right. What we can learn from medieval medicine. So, after all the leeches, toads, and powder gems, what's the takeaway? What lessons can we modern folks pull from a time when medicine felt like a mix of science, superstition, and let's just see what happens? The power of belief. One of the strongest medicines is belief itself, the placebo effect, where thinking you're getting better actually helps you heal, was probably one of the medieval world's best-kept secrets. Whether it was a magical charm, a whispered prayer, or a funky herbal potion, the confidence in the cure mattered a lot. Nature holds many answers. Despite some weirdness, many medieval remedies used plants and herbs that actually have healing properties. We still use willow bark, aspirin, and chamomile tea for a reason. Nature was their pharmacy, and it remains an important part of medicine today. Holistic health matters. Medieval medicine looked at the body, mind, and spirit as connected. Modern science sometimes forgets this, focusing on symptoms rather than the whole person. Maybe there's wisdom in considering emotional and spiritual health alongside physical health. Hygiene and isolation work. The practice of quarantine and basic cleanliness had real impact. Though they didn't understand germs, medieval societies showed us the value of keeping sick people separate and maintaining hygiene, lessons we still use, especially during pandemics. Don't fear the weird. Some of the strange remedies were attempts at trial and error, a reminder that progress comes from curiosity and experimentation. We may chuckle at medieval medicine, but it paved the way for modern science. Compassion is timeless. Beyond potions and spells, healers cared deeply for their patients. They did their best with what they had, a testament to human kindness in the face of mystery and suffering. Medieval medicine might seem weird and wild to us, but it was a sincere effort to understand the unknown and heal the sick. It reminds us that medicine is always evolving, and sometimes the past holds surprising insights for the future.